So welcome to Bunny's Designs. This is part 2 of Kerby Rosanes' Animorphia, and I'm working on the parrot page. It's probably the colours are looking a little bit better. He's not yellow, he is a green parrot. Or bless him, he was. Unfortunately, our Charlie passed away last week after almost 18 years, so we didn't know how old he was when we got him. But the girls are devastated, so they're looking for another parrot that talks, because they think it's more human for an animal to talk. So we need a talking parrot. We have a very large cage and no parrot in it. So I have started on Twitter. So this is the Kerby Rosanes' Animorphia, and I've neglected this book a little bit. I haven't worked in it as much as I've worked in the others, and then you open something up and you think how wonderful things are. So I'm kind of falling in love with this one again, so I might take this one away this weekend with me and leave all the others at home so I can catch up. But I did like the Charlie page, and I'm working with my pastel pencils. I'm working with a blender, a firm blender, and then I'm blending it, and then I'm putting highlights in it with my eraser, and then I'm setting it straight away with a damp brush, so it's not a pastel anymore. As soon as I've done a cloud, I'm setting it, it's become a watercolour, or it becomes a colour that's behaved very similar to watercolour. Technically it isn't a watercolour, but it's set, but you can re-wet it and move it about again like you can a watercolour. But at least it's set and you don't have to use fixatives, but you do have the advantage of all the bright, vivid pastel colours without all the mess, which is quite nice. It's a very easy way to work, so to work in pastels and keep pages lovely and clean is quite nice. So I'm going to zoom in and you can see what I'm doing. So what I was talking about in the chat room, because this is a live stream recorded for ustream.tv and also for YouTube for people to watch at their leisure. So welcome everybody, thanks for stopping by guys in the live stream, having a natter, and in YouTube land for watching later. If anybody has any requests from YouTube, if you'd like to subscribe and leave a message, that would be wonderful. Anything you'd like to see again, anything you'd like that you see that I haven't gone into too much detail, if you leave a message, I do try to get through them during the following few days. So I'm really enjoying this. I'm using Indigo Piece 360 in my Derwent Pastel set, and this is the traditional set this is the set you can buy now. I have a vintage set, but I'm trying to use the colours so people can match them up if they want. So this is indigo, but I find it a smoke grey, and it's a little bit of a cold smoke grey as well, so it's good for shadows, it's good for these particular clouds. I'm not using very much, because when you smush it out a little bit and then you use an eraser, you can kind of get highlighted areas. Sorry about the thumb being in the way, and I quite like that. I quite like the fact that you can manipulate it with an eraser. And then I have a little fluffy brush. I just brush off the excess erasing kind of bits and pieces that appear, and then I dunk, I've got number 4 rigger, I dunk it and twist it into a baby wipe to a point so it's damp, and I just stroke over the top, and it wants to be just damp, so it's a little bit like if you're cleaning a hob oven and you wipe it with a damp cloth. If it's warm, it instantly dries. You can see the glistening disappear, and that's very similar to what I'm doing here. Because you don't want it too wet. One, it'll buckle your page and it'll remove this colour that we've already got. We don't want to do anything with this because we've already done it. We've already blended it, so we just want to set it, and that's the easiest way. So I'm going around all the clouds. Oh, hi Melgrose, welcome to Bunny's Designs. Anybody else is popping in? Yes, I set them with a damp brush, then we're not using any nasty chemicals. The thing with these is you've got such vibrant colours when you look at all the other things, but I would think you can, I've got the full set, but I think you can buy a set of about 36 and that would be ample, because bear in mind you can mix these a lot easier, you can blend these a lot easier than you can. And I'm going to do another page which is just blended pencils. So you don't have to buy the full set, you can make hundreds of other colours from just one 36 or 24 set. The 36 is probably the best one. You only need about half a dozen greens and things, but the way this works is I only use one colour and then I use the blender, and the blender gives me about 4 or 5 other colours. You know, there's a very dark grey there to a very, very pale grey, and then when you use the eraser you get just an off-white, so you've got ample for doing colour book pages, more than enough. You don't need that many for colour book pages to still get a nice effect. So you can blend it till it's completely flat, or you can put one little tiny bit of a layer on the top of another, and that will give you a bit of a shadow. But because this is shiny pastel, it's not pastel paper, it's shiny paper, you don't have that wonderful tooth as in traditional pastels. So this really shouldn't work, because we have got pastel blending into a very shiny area, shiny paper, and it doesn't have a tooth. So what I do now is I take the eraser and I take off anything that I've put on that I don't really want on, and I put on a few highlights so you can tell one is in front of the other. Give it a bit of dimension. I use my little fluffy brush, which is a beautiful sable watercolour brush, but I can't use it anymore. And when I'm happy with it, I then take my number 4 brush, twist it in a baby wipe, and then I just stroke over the top. So you can see that as soon as that becomes wet, it instantly dries. You don't want a very, very wet sopping brush. And if you don't have a rigger, use a small brush, but you'd have to keep dipping in, because the brush is barely damp, and as such it doesn't stay wet for long, so you just have to keep dunking and drying and dunking and drying. But you want the least amount of water on there. But that's all set now. I'm not going to touch that one because I've just done it. Has anybody else got any questions? I paid 63 in the UK for my pastel pencils. But they are Derwent. Having said that, there's a little man that's done a bit of a test of 6 or 7 different types, and he has Faber-Castell. But Faber-Castell, there's only 60 in the set. But I haven't played with those. They may not blend as well. He did a test and he said they were very similar in consistency and blendable as Derwent. The cheaper ones were a bit scratchy, and the pigment won't be as good, because bearing in mind you're paying for pigment. I made a video a couple of days ago all about pastels, and I'm going to go through the pastels and how to use them. But this is why this works, because the colour is so intense in these pastels. The pigment is so good. Because they are expensive, it's the pigment that's expensive, but because you get them, they last longer and the colour's more vibrant. That's why your near colour 2s are more expensive than your cheapy ones. That's why soft pastels are more expensive than cold pastels. Now you can do this with a cheap set of soft pastels. It's just difficult to get into these smaller areas. But you could do it with a bigger pattern. You just ground it in exactly the same. The soft pastels are gorgeous, but you just cannot use them in a smaller, intricate way that you can with these. That's the difference. But I got them for a present. I get them for Mother's Day, or Valentine's Day and Christmas. So Christmas this year was my UG thing, though. I got a UG so that I could carry on drawing, because at that particular time I couldn't use anything. But if you've got arthritis, they're quite good because you don't need your thumb. These are the only pencils I can use, even though I have a lot of other artist things. I can't use them, so that's why I've changed to these, because they are easy. But if you have anything else and you can blend, then that's fine. Again, that looks like it isn't one, and then it looks like it is one, so that's a bit strange. But I am just scratching a tiny bit of colour in here. And that's the beauty of these. You just scratch colour in. I'm not particularly being precise, purely because I can't be precise anymore. If you don't use your thumb, you realise just how bad things are. And then you just kind of, again, just stroking this across. So at the moment that colour is hanging on for dear life, and as I say, without a tooth it shouldn't really sit there, but it does. It does. But it's a really nice way to work. And I've gone over a little bit there, but as I say, I can rectify this with an eraser. The trick is not, you see, I'm going right over everything, but it doesn't matter because I have a trick. Now you can do it two ways. You can take your brush. Now you've got to be a little bit precise, because wherever you've wet it, that's where it's going to stick. So I did this one, but I went over the rose. So if I do not go over the rose petals, I just set the cloud behind. I'm not touching the pastel that's gone over the line. I'm only going up to the line with a wet brush. So I am only setting everything that I want setting at this point. And I didn't actually put a highlight on there, but it doesn't really matter. So again, I went over the line, but I'm staying in the line with a damp brush. Again, go around the flower, but not go over that petal, because I don't want that petal to be set. I don't want it to be dark. So if you can be a bit precise here, in theory, I'm going to take that to there, because it is a natural cloud, actually, isn't it? So, right. So I'm going to leave that for a little while, and then take my eraser and just erase over the top. If it's very fine, you just erase right over the top. Otherwise, you just go in a bit where you want to. And if you haven't gone over the line, it won't be set, so it'll erase off. So I love the fact that you can make a real boo-boo and then go back and rectify it. So like the rose. So we've got all that off. I've left that one because it is one. Same with that one. I think that's a flower, so I'm going to take that one off. And his head. His head got dirty and his antennae got dirty. But because I didn't actually go over it with a damp brush, it came back to life. So when I get rid of all those little bits, the only thing that's set is all the grey cloud behind. Did that make sense? Did that make sense? Yes, DRD, I've done quite, I would say hundreds, but I've done quite a few videos on watercolour pencils and ink tents and watercolours. It's just I can't do them now. But if you look back on you should find them under watercolours. Where's my Animorphia? I actually bought professional watercolours to do these. I'll just show you very quickly. Just bear with me, let it pan out a little bit. These are professional watercolours, done fairly dry. That's Derwent pencils, scratched in, and then very similar to what I'm doing now, scratching it in, getting the colour on, and then activating it, manipulating it with a wet brush. That's that one's ink tense. This one is watercolour. Sorry, that one's ink tense. This one's ink watercolour. There's very little difference in colour, and that surprised me because ink tense are supposed to be very vibrant, and they are. But the Derwent watercolours are beautiful. I started this one, but I can't use a paintbrush at the moment, so I can't use watercolours. That's the first one I did. There's 3 or 4 videos of this from start to finish on watercolour. So that's watercolour, and that's why I said about the cadmium red. The cadmium red was too orangey, and the alizarin crimson was too pinky for the toadstools. So there is one colour here. I think that's the original. This dark here is the one colour. All the others is in just added water, nothing else. And there's half alizarin crimson and half cadmium red. And that gave me the red that I wanted for the toadstools. And then all these beautiful pinks are all just adding cold water to my original red mix. I only have 6 colours. You only need 6 colours to make hundreds of others. The first one I did was this one, and I made it with 3 Cotman colours. There's only 3 colours there: alizarin crimson, cerulean blue, and a lemon yellow. And you can make hundreds of colours. The only one you fail on is purple, because I couldn't make a French ultramarine. I made a warm blue. Your cold blues are fine and your cold greys are fab, but warm purples are a bit difficult. I made 630 colours out of 3 colours. So you don't need to buy hundreds of others. If you're doing watercolours, you only need 3. This was the pastels I did today. This one I blended like I'm doing now. This one I put the pencil down and I blended it with a brush and so set it straight away like a watercolour. So there's 2 videos on this, I think, that I finished today, apart from the little creatures, but I never know what to do with those. So I always leave them blank. I always leave them white. So the same pastels, but one's blended and then dampened and set with a damp brush. This one is actually blended, and so it's a little bit more vibrant because you're not blending it, you're sitting it on top. So I use those as like a watercolour, so I haven't blended them like I'm doing here. But I made one video today and I did one yesterday on that. Yeah, I would say, well, no, you need 6. No, you need 6. It's very easy. I did the 6 colours. I did a colour wheel. oops, when I made this one, I did a colour wheel. Look on colour mixing with printer inks, that's 3, but I do 6 colours. When I did this one I did 6. You only need 6 colours. You need a cold red and a warm red. You need a cold blue and a warm blue, and a cold yellow and a warm yellow. You only need 6 colours. If you then take your 2 blues and your 2 yellows and you mix them into 6 different, so you mix the 2 together, the other 2 together, those 2 together, and then those 2 together, you've instantly got 8 greens, and you haven't done anything. You've only got 4 colours. You just take a warm blue and a cold yellow, a cold blue and a cold yellow, a warm yellow and a cold blue, and a warm yellow and a warm blue, and you've got all those different greens from your darks and your dulls, because the colour wheel is, if the colours are together, so your cold yellow and your cold blue are together on a colour wheel, they make your brightest greens. If you use a warm yellow and you use a warm blue, they're further away, and both of them have got a tint of red in them, because it's made it warm. So it's a yellow, but it's not an orange. The same with a blue. It's a purpley blue, but it's not a purple. They've both got a touch of red. That's what makes them warm. When you put those 2 together, you get a very dark green. You don't get the vibrant green. Does that make sense? The same with the purples. This is why I couldn't make a purple here. I had 3 colours. I had a cold yellow and I had a cold red, and I made an orange. Then you add a touch of orange, sorry, a pinky red, and you put a touch of orange to your pinky red and you make a cadmium red. That's a cold one. So you've got a pinky red, but you've only got a cold blue. So if you do a pinky red with a cold blue, you make a purple. And then you need a touch of purple into the warm pinky red to make a bright purple. But you can never get a bright purple because it's too cold is the blue. Or I couldn't get one. I could get this purple, but I couldn't get that beautiful mauve purple that we say. I could only get a dull purple because I could not get that warm blue. I could not make French ultramarine, and you need French ultramarine for your purples. But you also need a cold blue, a cerulean blue, a very bright blue, more colder than cobalt blue. Cobalt blue will still not get you the best greens. You need cerulean blue, a very cold pale blue, and that will give you, with a bright yellow, fabulous greens. But I made all these oranges and peaches and all these pinks and purples and dark greys and greens. I made them all from 3 colours, and they were 99p. They were the Cotman watercolours, which are student grade, and they are beautiful to work with. You don't need to have Winsor & Newton. It's just I was a professional artist once, and I wanted to colour in professional colours. So I bought these. My husband bought me them. But they were reduced. But unfortunately I can't use my thumb, so I can't I bent it then. I can't control a water brush to get fine detail. And I'd forgotten about these pastels. My daughter dug them out for college a couple of years ago when she did her O-level, and I thought, oh, I'll try them. And you can just scratch a bit of colour, and you don't need your thumb. You just scratch in colour in a very willy-nilly rough way inside a line. You just touching this there's no precision at all. And then you've got your blender, and again you've just got to kind of see if you can stay in the line a bit. Now this blender is a little bit big, but it blends it really well into paper. And then I use my eraser. Again, I can't use an eraser like people do with a thumb because my thumb won't work, so I kind of put a highlight on, And again, I've got another few colours out of that grey. And then I brush those off. And then again, the water brush. The water brush has no precision. The water brush goes right over the top of everything. Now, I have hurt my thumb today because I used this. And I have to use a little bit more precision because I'm blending with a pencil, I don't know where it is now. I didn't put my little thing on to say that I'd finished it either. Come out. No, it's not going to come out. I've lost it. The one I made the video this morning. But I was making it by blending with a brush, but you've got to be a little bit more precise. Oh, thank you, Scooby. Oh, hope you have a good day. Oh, thanks, Carolyn. I did quite a few videos on colour mixing. From ink, if you really want to play about, just use. I used an old, a cheapy pad and colouring, just cartridge pad sketchbook, and I used printer inks, which were £3.50. Now, the colours are slightly different when you use watercolours and inks and acrylics, but the principle is the same. The amount you mix will change slightly, but the principle of mixing a certain colour with a certain colour is exactly the same for printer inks, and that's what gave me the idea. And I thought, well, if a printer can do it, I can do it. But I will say that if you look at most good sets, you will get 2 blues, 2 reds and 2 yellows, because that's all you really need. And I actually bought 2 of each of the colours. I bought a lemon yellow, a cadmium yellow, I bought an ultramarine, French ultramarine, and a cerulean blue, alizarin crimson and a cadmium red. And I bought those from the Caran d'Ache set, and I wanted to make hundreds of colours, the 100 colours that they have in their set, from 6 colours. Now, 2 things will happen. One is your crayons will not last as long. If you buy the full set, they'll last you forever, because you're using them to make all your other colours up. But if you can only afford 6, you can still get a nice colour wheel. You can get a couple of browns, you can get a couple of greens, oranges, purples, then you can get some olive colours, and you can get some tan colours and russets, and you can get some greens and olive greens, and you can get other colours. So you can actually make from those quite a few. You don't need the whole, one colour's right next to the other colour. So I'll have a look at those videos, because then they do go into a fair amount of detail. I think there's 5 or 6 on the colour wheel. And I had intended to actually grind my own colours and mix my own, but unfortunately my arthritis has got bad and I can't do that now. So you can actually do it with just 6. Has anybody got any questions? So that's all dried again now. I don't know what that is. I thought... Oh, that's the scroll. I thought that looks to me... Oh, it's a dragon. Is it a dragon? It's a dragon. It is a dragon. So the other thing I do with these Kerby Rosanes is I get all the clouds and things and all the flowers done, because I know the things kind of mix into there. So I seem to have gone over there with that little man. So let's see if we can bring him back. So we've got some flowers there, so they're going to be quite bright, so that'll brighten things up a little bit. But as I say, this is in honour of Charlie, who passed away last week, our green Amazon. Bless his little socks. Excuse me, I'm just drinking cold tea. Yeah, my laptop is just not wet and just not well. I don't know why it's kind of shaky. I did DRD. I did about 10, I think. I did about 10. If you bear with me, I'll look up my phone. And they should be under a playlist. Just bear with me, let's see if I can find them. And I'll show you what they are. Oops, if you go under playlists and go under... There's quite a few, so I was trying to get rid of some actually because I think I've got too many. There's colour mixing. So we've got complementary colour mixing with printer inks. There's quite a few of those. So there's an hour and 4 complementary colour mixing with printer inks, and that gives you the principles of filling up a palette like this. Right, well, let me do it. But filling this palette, and what I wrote on it was a blue-green and a green-blue, and then a green, then a yellow-green, then an orange. A yellow-green, then an orange, and I did it that way. So you had your complementary colours, your primaries, and then you had your primaries and your secondaries, and your tertiaries. And your tertiaries are in between everything else. So there's 3 of the printer inks, and then there seems to be a part 1 and a part 2 Animorphia, and it's not letting me have a look at it, so bear with me 2 seconds. I'm not used to using this app. Let's do colour mixing. See if it comes up. Yeah, Winsor & Newton Professional. There's quite a few on there. There's 5 come up. It doesn't say which is part 1. Now if you look far back you will find the horse that I did. This is the very first picture. I don't know where it is now. I thought it was in here. The very first picture I did in watercolours. But the sound is pants because I was poorly on the sofa and I forgot to click the headphones, so the sound was coming from the other side of the room. So the sound is pants, but you know, if you can follow what I'm doing. So there's 3 on that particular page with the bunnies. Oh, sorry, crunch, 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 crunch. So there's 3 parts here, and there were 6 colours on this. But from those 6 colours, you could be able to see how to make the colours you need. Hiya Dazzle Desire, welcome to Bonnie's Designs. So there's 3 on there, and then this Animorphia one. But some are a couple of hours, an hour long. Most of them are about an hour and a half. So there's a lot, and this is professional watercolours in here because I love them. I mean, these colours are all mixed. A lot of these are mixed. Colour mixing is very easy. I don't think I mixed any colours on here. But I'm going to mix the pastels. You don't need all the pastels, especially not in a colour book. Oh, that was, the horse was first, then that was what was left. If you look at the colours, you'll get paler and paler. I think I got, out of one palette, I got three. But I did really love, that's my favourite one, using watercolours. And I still have the palette tucked away somewhere. I still have the palette. Oh, delightful. Just bear with me 2 seconds. Just got an emergency. Nigel, can you quickly get her muzzle off to take her outside? She's so choked. Well, she can't. She's got a muzzle on. Yeah, I know you have, but I said, do you want to give that to me? Because she's choking. Thanks. I've got Alfie under here. Sorry about that. So, yeah, that's another one. But I just can't do that anymore. I started this one, the watercolours. So I'm waiting to find out what's in the thumb, so that. But I've just tried to use it now, and I forget. It's not nice. Yes, well, that's why I did it. You don't need all. You just need 6. Same with oil colours. I was going to do oil mixables in the colour pages, but as I say, at the moment I can only use pastels because you don't need a thumb. You don't need a thumb. You can just kind of, like chopsticks, use 2 fingers. Because that's what I'm basically doing. Or, if you see me like this, I'm moving my wrist. That thumb joint will not move. Otherwise the language will get rather blue. So if you have a look, and as I say, I got from, where was I? I think they're only £2, but at Hobbycraft in the UK, they were 99p. So I got the cerulean blue, I got a lemon yellow, very cold, not a cad yellow, not a warm yellow, very cold yellow, and I've got a Lysian crimson, a very pinky red. And from there I made a cad red, I made a cadmium yellow, and I made a warm purpley blue, but it wasn't quite French ultramarine. It was probably a cobalt. So if you take a cobalt and a Lysian crimson and you mix it together, you will not get a bright purple for a million years. You will get some beautiful purples, but you'll get these purples, these dull purples, because they're further away on the spectrum. So your pinky red's here, and in your colour wheel, your French ultramarine is here, so that gives you the perfect purple. But if you use a cobalt or a cerulean, they're cold. So you're using a cold one, you're using it furthest away from its on the colour wheel, so you're going to get a cold, dark purple. The same with the greens. If you mix a lemon yellow is next to a cerulean blue, you're going to get the brightest green, pea greens. But if you take a French ultramarine and mix it with a lemon yellow, you're going to get a colder green, a cooler green, because they're not next to each other on the colour wheel. The same with a cad yellow. A cad yellow and a cerulean blue is a bright green, but it's not the brightest. And if you mix the furthest away blue, which is the French ultramarine, and the furthest away yellow, which is the nearest orange, so that's going to be the cad yellow, a warm yellow, you mix those together, you get these gorgeous dark, really dark greens. Smoke dark greens, dark forest greens, but they're not bright. So if you don't have a bright yellow and a bright blue, you're never going to get bright greens, and this is why people get upset. You know, if you have a bright pink and a cold blue, you get a purpley brown, and people can't understand that. But it's because you need the warm blue. So there's another one about a colour wheel as well, but this particular one, I've still actually got this, because I won't throw it away, there's tons of colour in it. Just can't put my hands on it. I just can't put my hands on it. So I can do a simple colour wheel. If I get a piece of paper, if I get a colour wheel, just put that to one side for the moment. So And you can tell every good set of paints, whether it be acrylic or otherwise. So I'm going to take, I've actually broken that one, it's my deep cadmium, so I'm going to take that one because that's my cadmium. There's my cadmium, and then I want a lemon yellow, a cold yellow. That's a cold yellow. In fact, actually it doesn't have to be that cold, that's colder. And then we want, I've actually got a cerulean blue as well. I think that's one of those. There's cyan and cerulean. I'm sure I've got a cerulean blue. I'll take the cyan one. What's that one? Just bear with me, let's have a look at that one. Yeah, but it's not, that's a cold blue. It doesn't have to be a light blue, it just has to be a cold blue. And then we want an ultramarine, which I've put on the other side. Now it says that's my cerulean blue. But that's too pinky, I think. I don't know, I'll have a go with that one. And I want my ultramarine. And then I want 2 reds. Thank you, darling. Cadmium red, which is where? That's a cadmium red. So my cadmium red's the colder one, and then I might look at crimson actually. Yep, crimson. So I've got 6 colours. I'm just not sure about the blue. What's that one? I think that's too warm, that one. Yep, I'm going to use that. So if we have a colour wheel, can't write very well. Oh, it might flash out. So we've got a colour wheel, and we've got red there, and we've got yellow there, and we've got blue there. So those are primary colours. So I've got a P, a P and a P. Now a secondary colour, we've got green, whoops, I normally do this with a triangle, we've got orange, and we've got purple. They're secondary. Oh, I should have put blue there, sorry. I don't know what I've done there. Nope. Start again. We've got red. We've got blue. And we've got yellow. And then we've got purple, we've got orange, and we've got green. So that's a primary, that's a primary, and that's a primary. That's a secondary, that's a secondary, and that's a secondary colour, because it's made by the primaries. So yellow, we want a yellow orange, and we want a yellow green. We want a blue green, and we want a blue purple, and we want a red purple and a red orange. Is that showing up? So what we need to do is we have a cadmium red, and this one is kind of like an orangey red, and we have a crimson red, and it's like a pinky red, it's warmer. Now you don't have to go by, you don't have to look at the colour. You have to just look at the colour, the name of the colour. You have to look at the colour. Is it a cold orangey red, or is it a warm pinky red? The same with the yellows. An orangey red is normally a cadmium yellow, a warm sunny yellow. And a cool one is a very cold yellow, so it's got no warmth in it. The purpley blues are the French ultramarines. They're warmer ultramarines. And celestiums and cold blues are a colder blue, sea blue, very cold blue. So when you mix a red orange with a yellow orange, you get the brightest orange. So we've got cad red, so we've got a bit of cad red and a bit of cad yellow. I'll clear my blending thing back. And if we blend this, you've got a nice orange. We want the cold yellow and the cold blue, and we can blend those together. We've got a bright green, and then we want a purple, a red purple and a blue purple to make a bright blue, a bright purple. So that's your basic. Oh, I'm glad you've got it, yeah. So out of those just six colours, especially with watercolour, it's easier than any other. It's more difficult with these, but you've got your two reds, your two yellows and your two blues. Now these two are together, so they're going to get the brightest green. Those two are together, nearest on the colour wheel, you're going to get the brightest purple. And those two are the colours nearest together on the colour wheel, so you're going to get the brightest orange. But that doesn't mean to say you can't make anything else. So they're your primary colours and your secondary colours. Now everything in between is a tertiary. So what we can have here is we can have a green blue, and we can have a blue green. We can have a blue purple, and we can have a purple blue. We can have a purple red, and we can have a red purple. We can have a red orange, and we can have a yellow, a red orange, or we can have an orange red. We can have an orange yellow, or we can have a yellow orange, and we can have a yellow green yellow, green yellow, or we can have a yellow green. And that means these are blues, and the red ones does the same, the red purples and the red oranges, they do the same, and the yellows do the same. I could have gone over that one. But the in-between ones, and then these are the secondary ones. But then every one in between that, the two in between, are tertiary, and that's why you've got three primaries, you've got 3 secondaries, but you've got 2, 4, 6, you've got 8 tertiaries. Are we still there? Are we still there? So, if we want to make a yellow-green, we put more yellow than we do green, the blue. And that's going to give us, if I make sure that that's clean. Oh, actually I do it with the brush because it's easy for me to do it with the brush, I think. I'm really just hurting my thumbs too much. So what that gives us a pale yellowy green. If we go down here and we have the green already, but we're going to put more yellow, but not too much yellow. So basically you've got the green in the middle, but you're adding more yellow. That gives you the greeny yellow. So in here, you've got your bright green. Now there's nothing to say you can't put that blue with that yellow. But I'll put that in the middle. So in order to make this green, we've got this yellow, and we've got the ultramarine. So now when we mix those together, we are not going to get the brightest green on the planet. We've got a gorgeous shadow or a dull green. Yes, I am, but it was to do with Charlie the Parrot, I think, wasn't it? I think it was correct. So, although I've got a blue and a green, a blue and a yellow, that's a horrible green. Well, I love them, but you know, if you do it that way, and just add a tiny bit of blue, just get a slightly bigger brush. It isn't a bright green. Whereas if you've got, oh sorry, I've got the wrong yellow, that's why. So we've got cadmium yellow and ultramarine blue. So if you mix those together, you've got a dull green. But when you mix the bright yellow, cold yellow, with the cold blue, actually that was it's a bit warmer is that one, but I'll do it at the side. That's cerulean blue. You're going to get a gorgeous green because you've used the two colours nearest together on the colour wheel. So that's your bright green. But if you want some dull forest dark greens, you use the purpley blue, or you use the reddy blue. So if we got, let me just put that one away because that's the cerulean blue, it's a bit too pale. So we'll try the cool blue and the cadmium warm yellow. So you've got a nice rich dark green, but it's not pale green, it's a dark green, almost underfloor forest green. And if you use the pale yellow and the French ultramarine, which is the blue, warm blue, you get a dark green. It's not quite as yucky as the two outside ones, and it's still a nice green, and it's a different green. But you'll never get your bright green if you have a purple, blue and a warm yellow. You need cold for green. Does that make sense? Same with purples. So we'll put the yellows down and we'll play with the purple. Oh, we'll do the purples last because that's the most complicated. We'll do the reds next. So on a colour wheel, we've got crimson red there. So if we take the cad red and the cad yellow, which are both, you've got a cold red and a warm yellow, but the nearest in the colour wheel, you're going to have a nice orange. It's a nice orange, that. Let me turn my baby wipe to this side. But if you take a cold yellow, and we'll do it to the back, the cold yellow and the opposite red, the pinky red, magenta, and you add those together, you've got a dull orange. Again, it's a nice orange, but it's almost a russet. It's not a bright, vivid orange. If you take a cad red and add a cold yellow, you've got a dark orange. You haven't got that lovely bright orange, and that's because they're further away on the colour wheel. Now when it comes to the blues, this is when I could not make a French ultramarine, because what you had to do was I made the purple. I haven't done the purples, I'll do the purples next. So you do the purples, so we've got a French ultramarine and we've got a cad red. And that's the dullest purple you've ever seen. It's purple, but it's very dull. The same as if you took a cold blue and a warm red. You've got a dull purpley blue. Actually, that's more like French ultramarine. So if you take the French ultramarine with Elysian crimson, you've got a warm blue and you've got a warm red, which are next to each other, nearest to each other on the colour wheel. When you blend those together, you get a lovely colour purple. Which looks like a purple. It doesn't look like a muddy purple or a dark purple. But these purples are beautiful. All these colours are fab for shadows and for tones and for tints. But what we want is the brightest colour we can get. Does that make any sense? All you've got to remember on your colour wheel, make your colour wheel, put your 2 yellows, your 2 blues and your 2 reds together. So I've got a warm and a cold red, a warm and cold yellow and a warm and a cold blue. And you put them together. So it's not complicated at all. You've got 6 colours. You've got red orange. The cold red is near an orange, so it's there. The warm yellow is near an orange, so it's there. You put those 2 together and you get orange. The cold, bright yellow and the cold blue together to make a bright green. the purpley blue, the warm blue, the French ultramarine, the red, warm, crimsony red puts together to make a bright purple. And from there you have got your three primaries and your three secondary colours. And all everybody else has done is mixed other colours up in different combinations to make tertiary colours. So for that blue, to make that purple, you can mix it with that red, and you get a purple, but you won't get the bright purple, but you will get a purple. You can mix this blue with this red, but you won't get a bright purple. So you've got to put your colours in their order to start with. Look at the ends and say, that's a colder yellow than that. That's quite a warm yellow. They're not always named. That's a cold yellow, that's a warm yellow. And think, well, that's colder than that one. They're your two colours. Same with the pinks. Pinks is easy with the reds. One looks a reddy pink, and one's an orangey pink. Orangey red and a pinky red. So you know which two those are. Same with the blues. That's a kind of a cold blue, and that's a purpley blue. That's instantly done. Right, dear, well, this is not probably the right one to watch, but yeah, have a good day. What you need to watch is, you need to watch one of the other colour mixing ones, because that showed you actually me mixing them, and you can see the different colours. That probably was a better one. But that's what you need for your colours. And then all everybody else has done, Derwent included, has added different variations and different amounts of the reds and the yellows to get these tertiary colours. Your tertiary colours are your teals, your olives, your russets. They're all tertiary colours. They're colours that are not secondary colours, not primary colours. They're a mixture of the others. So they're all called tertiary colours. So but from these two of each primary colour, there is no colour you cannot mix. They all come from these. And that's why your printer has got a cold blue, a cold yellow, and a reddy pink. Because this is your printer inks. Very quickly I'll show you. This is your printer inks, okay? So in order to make a warm yellow, you make an orange, and you put a touch of orange into the cold yellow. You've made cad yellow. You take the blue and the red and you make a purple. You put a touch of purple into the blue and you've made French ultramarine. You take the red and an orange and you've made cad red. So you've got your 6 colours. You cannot make a cold blue, you cannot make a cold yellow, and you cannot make a pink red. It's impossible. And that's why these 3 are your printer inks, because these are the 3 colours that make every other colour on the planet. Does that make sense? Your printer inks are alizarin crimson or a magenta, very, very pinky red, a cold, bright, very light yellow, and a celerium cold, cyan, very cold blue. That's your printer colours. And from those colours you can make these colours. I did have a spot of difficulty making French ultramarine. And then from these 6 colours, again, there isn't a colour you can't make, because you take those 2 and you make purple, those 2 and you make orange, and those 2 you make green. And that's why they're secondary colours, because it's only with 2 different colours together. Second is 2. So it takes 2 colours to make a green, 2 colours to make all the other colours. They're secondary colours. And then everything in between are your tertiary colours. So all your pale yellows, your dark yellows, your pale your oranges, your dark oranges, your pale pinks, purples, greens, they all come from these 6 colours. So that was a bit of a wobble trail. So if you put these pastel pencils into, scrape them into equal amounts into wells, you will get your colour wheel, and when it dries you've got watercolour, and you can colour in with that. You can colour in with that. I'm going to go through the pastel colour wheel when my book arrives, and I'm very cross it hasn't arrived yet. It has not arrived yet, so I'm a little wee bit cross because I wanted it to arrive a bit sooner than that. I'm going to put that there so I can pull that up. So I hope that wasn't too confusing. Was that just about okay? If you get stuck, go and have a look at my mixing colours with printer inks. As I say, it's slightly different with printer inks, but the principle is the same. The colour mixing is exactly the same. You just get a slightly different colour. But there again, everybody could take printer inks and mix different colours. There'd be different reds, different blues and different yellows, because that's the nature of how we choose how to make an orange. Some people will be slightly heavy-handed with the yellow than the red, and other people will be more with the red and the yellow. So it's that particular part of it wouldn't be the same, but the principle of mixing the colours is the same. The reds and the oranges, the reds and the yellows to make oranges is exactly the same no matter what it is. Oh, thank Karen, thank you. Yep, so have a nosy at those. They're a bit long-winded, but I learnt a lot, and I got 630 some colours from doing a very, very intricate colour wheel. And then I took Inktense, Derwent pencils, watercolours. I even took the Hydrus. I did it with the Hydrus, and I did it with Kuretake Gansai Tambi watercolours, Winsor Newton watercolours. I did it with all sorts of about 6 different water-based things, and I made the colour wheels with those, the nearest I could to get the magic ones. But that's how to do it. Right, so go back to our little man. Oh, we've gone over the over the hour. So we've got some greys in there. I'll stop this video and then I'm going to carry on with the other bit. So we didn't get very far with that because we've got a bit of a waffle with colours. But that's why the beauty of a live show, people can ask, you can kind of go off on a little rabbit dropping. So thanks for watching. That's the end of part 2. We're actually going to have a part 3. Thanks for watching, guys.